A humble mechanic, a mysterious woman, and a chance encounter that changed everything. From that moment, strange and unexpected events began to unfold, pulling him into a journey unlike anything he had ever imagined. But not everyone welcomed the change. As kindness was tested and whispers of envy grew louder, would he find the courage to hold on to his faith and protect the dream he never dared to dream before? This is not just a story of a simple life disrupted, but a journey toward discovering the true meaning of kindness. Stay tuned to uncover the mystery behind these surprising changes. The story begins.
I was crouched under an old Chevy, the ache in my back growing more persistent and my hands permanently smelling of grease when I heard the low rumble of an engine pull up outside the garage. A panicked voice followed. "Hello? Is anyone here?" Sliding out from beneath the car, I wiped my hands on the oil-stained uniform that had seen better days and turned to face her. There she stood, a young woman, entirely out of place in this dusty corner of town. Her heels clicked sharply against the concrete as she walked toward me, her anxious eyes scanning the shop. "Hi, my car broke down," she said, gesturing toward a sleek black coupe parked haphazardly near the curb. It didn't belong here. Neither did she. "Well, you've come to the right place," I replied, keeping my tone steady, though the contrast between her polished appearance and the gritty surroundings wasn't lost on me. "Can you fix it quickly? I'm on a schedule." "I'll need to check it out first," I said, already grabbing my tools. As I examined the engine, it became clear she had no idea about cars. When I pointed out the near-empty coolant reservoir and a few loose connections, she pressed her lips together. "Can you fix it?" "I can," I said, suppressing a small smile, "but it'll take a few hours." She sighed, pacing in those high heels that didn't belong on this concrete floor. "Fine, I'll wait." Her impatience was evident, but I focused on the work. By the time I finished, the sun was dipping low, casting warm hues over the garage. She leaned against the wall, her eyes fixed on her phone. "All done," I said, wiping my hands as I stood. Relief washed over her face. "Finally. Thank you. How much do I owe you?" I told her the price, a modest fee given the effort involved. She blinked, then rummaged through her designer bag and pulled out a thick wad of cash. "Keep the change," she said curtly, handing me far more than I'd asked for. "That's too much," I said firmly, trying to return the excess. "I only charge for the work I did, nothing more."
Her expression softened unexpectedly, and for the first time she didn't seem hurried or impatient. "Consider it a tip," she said, her tone gentle but resolute. Before I could argue further, she turned on her heel and walked away. The sound of her heels echoed in the quiet shop as I stood there, the cash still in my hand, watching her climb into the sleek car and drive off into the fading light. I thought little of it until a sharp knock on my door startled me later that evening. I'd been sinking into my worn-out couch, nursing a cold beer and half watching a game on TV, when the sound cut through the night, crisp and deliberate, far too formal for this neighborhood. I opened the door to find a man in a tailored suit, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He held an envelope in his hand and carried himself with a confidence that instantly made me wary. "Mr. Walker?" he asked, his tone polished and professional. "Yeah," I replied, my voice edged with suspicion. "What's this about?" He extended the envelope toward me. "I'm here on behalf of Miss Charlotte Hayes." The name didn't ring a bell until he added, "She's the woman whose car you repaired earlier today." I frowned. "Is there an issue with the repair? I made sure everything was in working order." "No issue with the repair," he said evenly. "Ms. Hayes wanted to thank you personally. She has her own way of doing that." I glanced at the envelope, unease knotting in my stomach. This didn't feel like a simple thank you. "May I come in?" he asked, and though I hesitated, I stepped aside. He entered with the composure of someone used to boardrooms worth millions, not a mechanic's modest home. His gaze flickered across the peeling walls and threadbare furniture, lingering just a moment longer than polite. "Make yourself comfortable," I said dryly, a trace of sarcasm in my voice. He didn't sit. Instead, he handed me the envelope. "Ms. Charlotte Hayes insisted I deliver this to you directly. She believes in exceptional service." I opened the envelope cautiously, my rough, grease-stained fingers brushing against the fine paper. Inside was a check.
My eyes widened as I saw the number. $60,000. "This has to be a mistake," I muttered, staring at the figure as though it might change if I blinked enough times. "There's no mistake," he assured me. "Ms. Hayes has her reasons." "What reasons?" I demanded, suspicion rising. "I fixed her car, not her entire life." He smiled faintly, an expression that betrayed nothing. "She's a very private person, but it's safe to say she values acts of kindness, especially from those who expect nothing in return." I stared at the check in my hand, time seeming to freeze around me. My mind raced. $60,000. More money than I had ever seen in my life, let alone held in my hands. It could clear my debts, fix up the shop, maybe even let me dream of bigger things. But there had to be a catch. I could feel it. "What's the condition?" I asked, my voice tinged with suspicion. "There are no conditions," the lawyer replied calmly. "It's a gift, pure and simple." I didn't quite believe him. People like her don't just throw money around without a reason. Still, I nodded, slipping the check back into the envelope. "If she needs more car repairs, she knows where to find me," I said, keeping my tone light. The lawyer gave a polite nod and turned to leave. "Have a good evening, Mr. Walker, and take care." The next day, I was still grappling with what had happened when another surprise landed in my lap. A sleek black SUV pulled up outside the shop, and out stepped Charlotte Hayes herself. Gone was the nervous woman from the day before. Now she was a confident CEO, radiating authority like heat from the sun. "Ms. Hayes," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Didn't expect to see you again so soon." "Call me Charlotte," she said with a faint smile. "I wanted to thank you in person." "Didn't your lawyer already handle that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though her presence threw me off balance. She let out a soft laugh. "Perhaps, but I believe gratitude is best expressed directly." There was something in her tone, maybe the sincerity, that caught me off guard. She stepped closer, her eyes sweeping over the shop. "This is your work, for better or worse." "Mostly worse these days," I replied. Her face softened. "You're good at what you do. You could charge twice as much, and people would still come to you." "Not around here," I said. "Folks don't have that kind of money." Charlotte nodded, her expression thoughtful. "What if I told you I could change that? Not just for you, but for this entire neighborhood?" I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She smiled enigmatically. "I have a proposal, but it's not something we can discuss here. Are you free tonight? Join me for dinner." "Dinner with her?" I hesitated, unsure whether to feel flattered or wary. "I don't usually mix business with meals," I said cautiously. "Then consider it a favor," she replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Meet me at 7, I'll text you the address." And with that, she was gone, leaving me standing there staring after her in disbelief. The rest of the day passed in a blur, and by the time I arrived at the upscale restaurant she'd chosen, my nerves were frayed. My old truck looked out of place among the luxury cars in the lot. Inside, Charlotte was already waiting at a private table, dressed to impress and exuding confidence. "You clean up nicely," she remarked as I sat down, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "Thanks," I replied awkwardly. "I'm not used to dressing like this." She wasted no time on small talk. "You're probably wondering why I'm doing all this," she said.
The thought had crossed my mind, I admitted. She leaned forward, her expression turning serious. "I grew up in a place like this. People cared about each other and helped where they could, but they didn't have much. My father was a mechanic, just like you. He taught me the value of hard work and the importance of giving back." I studied her, trying to connect the poised woman in front of me with the story she was telling. "So you think handing me a check is your way of giving back?" I asked. "That's just the first step," she said. She continued, "I want to invest in you, in your shop, in your skills. Together, we could build something bigger, something that could uplift this entire community." Her words hung in the air, and I felt as though she just handed me the keys to a kingdom I wasn't sure I deserved. "Invest in me?" I repeated, as if saying it out loud might help me understand. Charlotte nodded. "You have talent, Ethan, and more importantly, you have integrity. Those qualities are rare. I see potential, not just in your work, but in what you could do for this community with the right support." "Why me?" I asked, still skeptical. "There are better mechanics, bigger shops." She held up a hand to stop me. "I didn't choose you because you're the best mechanic in the world. I chose you because you're the kind of person who would fix a stranger's car without counting every dime. That's the kind of person I want to work with." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to grab this opportunity with both hands, but another part couldn't help but wonder if this was some elaborate joke. "So, what's the catch?" I asked finally. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "There's no catch, just hard work and a shared vision. If you're interested, we'll drop the paperwork and get started. If not, keep the check. No strings attached."
She leaned back in her chair, but I had a feeling she knew I wouldn't pass up this chance. "I'm in," I said. Over the next few days, Charlotte laid out her plan in detail. She wanted to expand my shop, bring in better equipment, and start a training program for local kids interested in learning the trade. It sounded too good to be true, but the more I listened, the more I began to believe in her vision. She wasn't just throwing money at a problem. She had a clear strategy and wanted me to be at the center of it. By the weekend, I signed the paperwork, and the transformation began almost immediately. The first thing Charlotte did was bring in a team to renovate the shop. Watching them tear down the rusted old walls and replace them with sleek, polished panels felt like witnessing my life being rebuilt piece by piece. Charlotte was there every day, overseeing the work with a determination that left no room for failure. "You're not just fixing cars anymore," she said one afternoon as we stood amid the construction. "You're building a legacy." Her words stayed with me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. Not everyone was thrilled with the changes, though. Some mechanics in the area saw me as a traitor, and they didn't hide their feelings. "So you think you're better than us now?" one of them sneered as he walked into the shop one day. "I'm just trying to do something different," I replied calmly. "Yeah, with her money," he shot back, nodding towards Charlotte, who was talking to one of the contractors in the corner. I clenched my fists, but before I could respond, Charlotte stepped in. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her tone icy. The man mumbled something under his breath and left. "You don't have to fight my battles," I said once he was gone. "I know, but I'm not going to stand by and let anyone undermine what we're building here," As the shop took shape, so did my life. For the first time in years, I felt like I was moving forward instead of just treading water. But with progress came new challenges. Charlotte's presence in my life didn't go unnoticed, and rumors began to spread. People whispered about our relationship, speculating whether there was more to it than just business. At first, I tried to ignore the talk, but when an old friend confronted me directly, I couldn't hold back my frustration. "Do you think I'm doing this for personal gain?" I snapped. "Do you think I'd risk everything just for a paycheck?" "I don't know what to think," he admitted, his expression hesitant. "But people are talking, and not just about the shop." I understood what he meant, but I wasn't about to dignify baseless rumors with a response. My focus was on the work, and I wasn't going to let anything distract me. Charlotte, on the other hand, seemed completely unfazed. "Let them talk," she told me one evening when I brought it up. "People will always find something to complain about." Her confidence was reassuring, but it didn't make the gossip any easier to stomach. Still, I threw myself into the project, determined to prove the doubters wrong. The grand opening of the revamped shop was set for 4 months later. As the date approached, I worked longer hours, pushing myself to the limit to ensure everything was perfect. Charlotte was right there with me, her energy seemingly endless. "You're going to make this place the pride of the neighborhood," she said one night as we locked up. "I can feel it." When the work was finally done, the shop felt almost unrecognizable, but in the best way possible. The gleaming walls with fresh paint, spotless floors, and corners that once collected clutter were now filled with state-of-the-art equipment. There was even a customer lounge, complete with comfortable chairs, clean tables, and a coffee machine. I had never imagined a garage could look like this. "This is your moment, Ethan," she said softly, her voice calm yet encouraging. I cut the ribbon amidst cheers and applause, but in the crowd I caught glimpses of a few familiar faces. Cold, suspicious eyes. The first few weeks were a whirlwind. The business boomed almost immediately, and the training program for local kids quickly became a highlight. Watching their faces light up as they learned to work with their hands reminded me of my own first passion for fixing things. But not everything was smooth sailing. One evening, I discovered the shop's wall defaced with the words "Traitor" hastily scrawled in red paint. Charlotte arrived just as I was scrubbing it off. Upon seeing the damage, her eyes turned cold. "Who did this?" she asked, her voice icy. "I don't know," I admitted, trying to stay calm, "but it's fine. I'll take care of it." "Fine?" Her voice was firm. "This is not just about you anymore. This is about what we're building, and I won't let anyone tear it down." Charlotte stood by her word. She hired a security company and installed cameras around the shop. When I complained that it was too much, she simply shook her head. "When you try to make a real change, you're going to upset people. This isn't too much. This is how we protect the vision." Her determination was unwavering, and I couldn't help but admire her. But as the tension grew, I started to wonder if it was all worth it. One evening, as we locked up, Charlotte turned to me. "You're doubting yourself," she said, her eyes seeming to see right through me. "I'm doubting a lot of things," I confessed, "but mostly I'm wondering why you're still here. You don't have to do this." She looked at me, her gaze softening. "Maybe I need to. My father always said the only way to make life meaningful was to leave the world better than you found it. This is my way." Her words hit me deeper than I expected. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just a project for her. It was a way of life.
Things started to escalate a week later when a rival mechanic named Ryan showed up at the shop with 2 of his friends. "You think you're better than us?" he spat, his voice loud enough to draw attention from everyone inside. I stepped out, maintaining a calm demeanor, ready for whatever came next.
I'm not better than anyone, Ryan. I'm just trying to run my business. My business, he sneered. This isn't your business anymore. It's hers. He jerked his head toward the office, where Charlotte was working with a supplier. Watch your words, I said, my voice low but firm. What? He sneered, stepping closer. Before I could respond, Charlotte appeared in the doorway. Is there a problem? She asked, her tone calm but commanding. Ryan paused for a moment, but quickly regained his arrogance. Yeah, there's a problem. People around here don't like what you're doing. People around here? Charlotte raised an eyebrow, her gaze sharp. Or is it just you? The tension was thick, and I stepped between them before things could escalate further. Let's end it here, I said decisively. If you've got something to say, Ryan, say it to me. Don't drag her into this. Ryan glared at me, but eventually backed down, muttering curses as he left with his friends. Once they were gone, Charlotte turned to me. This won't be the last time someone tries to intimidate you. I can handle it, I replied, unsure if I was reassuring her or myself. I know you can, she said, her eyes resolute. But you don't have to do it alone. Her words stayed with me. She wasn't just talking about the shop. She was talking about everything. As time passed, the shop became the heart of the community. We held free repair clinics, helping struggling families with their vehicles, and created opportunities for local kids to learn life-changing skills. Charlotte's vision was taking shape, and I was proud to be a part of it. But with success came rumors, and with rumors came resentment. I began to question whether the cost of this dream was too high. The tension peaked one night as I was locking up the shop. The street around us was unusually quiet, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As I approached the truck, I saw them. 3 men stepping out of the shadows, with Ryan leading the way. Working late? He sneered, his voice laced with menace. What do you want? I asked, keeping my tone steady. Just reminding you where you belong, he said, stepping closer. You think you're some big shot now because she's backing you? Get out of here, Ryan, I warned him. He let out a mocking laugh, a harsh, grating sound. Or what, gonna call your CEO to save you? I clenched my fists, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. I don't need anyone to save me, but I'm not fighting you. Not here, not now. I knew you'd say that, he mocked, turning to leave. But then he stopped and looked back over his shoulder. This isn't over, Walker. Not by a long shot. The next morning when I told Charlotte about the encounter, her anger was unmistakable. This has gone too far, she said, pacing around the office. We can't let this slide. I can handle Ryan, I reassured her. This isn't just Ryan, she countered. It's everyone who thinks they can bully you into giving up. They don't see what we're building. They only see the threat. Then let them see, I responded firmly. I'm not backing down, not for this shop, not for the kids, and not for everything we've built. Charlotte stopped pacing and looked at me, her gaze softening. You really believe that, don't you? I believe it, I said without hesitation, and I won't step back. Her resolve only grew stronger after that. She started organizing community meetings, inviting local leaders to discuss ways to improve the area. Her passion was contagious, and gradually, even the skeptics began to see the bigger picture. But not everyone was convinced. Derek and his crew ramped up their harassment. They slashed tires of cars parked outside the shop and spread vicious rumors. One night, they even threw bricks through my window. Charlotte insisted we call the police, but I hesitated. That'll just make things worse, I said. And if we do nothing, they'll think they can get away with anything, she argued. In the end, we compromised. Charlotte hired security for both the shop and my house, while I became more vigilant, keeping a close eye on everything. It was only a temporary fix, but it was enough to keep things from escalating for the time being. Meanwhile, the auto shop continued to grow. Our training programs expanded, and we began partnering with local businesses to offer internship opportunities for the kids. Watching them grow day by day became one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. But deep inside, I still felt the pressure building. I knew Derek wouldn't give up easily, and it was only a matter of time before something major happened. That moment came on one fateful night. I was working late, finishing up a car, when I heard glass shatter. Rushing outside, I saw the front window of the shop smashed and Derek standing there, holding a crowbar. "This ends here," he growled. It wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration of his intent to protect what he thought was his. I didn't have time to think. Adrenaline flooded my body, and before I knew it, I was standing face to face with him. In that moment, all I knew was that I had to protect the shop. Not just the physical property, but everything I had built. The trust, the sweat, and the future of the place. "You've been a pain in my ass long enough," Derek spat, his eyes filled with challenge. "It's time someone taught you a lesson." "I don't scare you," I replied, my voice steady, though fear gnawed at me inside. Derek swung the crowbar, but I dodged just in time. The fight was chaotic, each of us wrestling, exchanging blows as if we were releasing years of pent-up hatred. My breath came in short gasps, and every punch I took felt like a reminder that I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for everyone who believed in me. I couldn't forget the sense of helplessness I felt when I heard Ryan's taunting words echo in my head. "It's time someone taught you a lesson." But I also couldn't forget the inner strength I found in that moment. A voice inside me saying, "You can do this. You're not just fighting Ryan. You're fighting to prove you're worthy." The sound of a police siren cut through the chaos. The officers arrived just in time to break us apart. Derek was arrested, and I stood there, bruised and battered, feeling an overwhelming sense of exhaustion. Charlotte arrived at the station to pick me up, her eyes filled with concern. "This has to stop," she said as we drove home. "It will," I promised. "Derek's no longer a threat." But even as I said those words, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. With Derek out of the picture, things started to settle down, at least on the surface. The shop was thriving, the kids were making remarkable progress in their training, and the community was beginning to rally behind us. But the underlying sense of unease never quite disappeared. I had learned that success always comes with a price, and I couldn't shake the nagging worry about the storm that might be waiting just around the corner. Charlotte, on the other hand, was always the optimist. She poured all her passion into this project, and her dedication reignited my own belief in what we were doing. One day, as we stood in the shop, watching the kids work diligently, she turned to me, her eyes bright with conviction. "This is what we've been working for, Ethan. Giving people hope, offering them the chance to build something better." Her words reminded me why I started this journey in the first place. As time passed, the shop became a symbol not just of hard work, but of hope for the entire community. Charlotte and I worked tirelessly to ensure its success, and gradually the whispers of doubt and resentment began to fade away. In the end, this journey wasn't just about fixing cars or building a business. It was proof that even in the face of adversity, change was possible. Charlotte's vision not only transformed the shop, but also changed the lives of those it touched, including mine. As I looked around at the growing community we had built together, I realized that every ounce of effort had been worth it. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Despite the doubts and challenges, Ethan never gave up on his goal of building a better future for the community. If you were in Ethan's shoes, would you have the courage to stand firm under pressure and pursue your dreams? What do you think of how he overcame the obstacles? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story could inspire and motivate others. If you found this story meaningful, share it with your friends and loved ones to spread the message of perseverance and belief in the greater good. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to receive the latest updates. The stories are collected from various sources and do not represent any individual or organization. They are shared with the intention of spreading human values in life and have been rewritten with the support of AI. If there are any mistakes, kindly overlook them with understanding. Wishing you all the best in life.